All right, let's dive right into this explainer. Today, we're going to completely transform how you approach literature reviews. I mean, if you've ever found yourself just staring at a massive mountain of research papers, feeling totally overwhelmed and ending up just writing out endless lists of what other people have said, well, you're definitely not alone. But we are going to change that today. We're moving you away from merely listing sources and showing you how to build a powerful, synthesized argument. We're taking you from a passive collector of information to a master builder of new ideas.
Now, here's a core mantra I want you to burn into your memory. Stop cataloging, start building. Because your job as a researcher is absolutely not just to stack books on a shelf to prove you did the reading. No way. Your actual job is to construct a completely new perspective using the raw materials, the data, the arguments, the theories that you found hidden within those books and articles.
To get us there, we'll follow 5 logical steps. We'll contrast the librarian versus architect mindset, introduce thematic synthesis, walk through its 3 stages, build a synthesis matrix, and finally, tackle quality and contradictory evidence. Let's get to it.
Starting with Section 1, the librarian versus architect mindset. This is a crucial mental shift that literally dictates the success of your entire review.
It's a trap so many of us fall into. Think about the librarian approach. They meticulously collect sources, line them up, and summarize them one by one. You know the drill. Smith found this, Jones argued that. It's super organized, sure, but it only states what was said. Now consider the architect. An architect connects findings. They might say, well, while Smith's quantitative data points to a clear trend, Jones's qualitative work reveals a crucial nuance that Smith completely overlooked. By comparing the data, the architect creates real tension and reveals an actual research gap. They explain why it matters.
So, if you're just listing facts, you are simply summarizing, not synthesizing. And honestly, summarizing completely fails your research goals. It just creates this flat, descriptive list that misses how the scholarly conversation has actually evolved. Think about it. It's like going to a dinner party and just reciting the guest list to your friends, instead of telling them about the intense debates that happened across the table. When your writing lacks that tension and dialogue, you totally miss the why it matters, and your reader is going to tune out.
Which brings us to Section 2, introducing thematic synthesis. If we aren't just summarizing, what exactly is the alternative here?
We need a reliable system, and thematic synthesis gives us exactly that. Developed by Thomas and Harden in 2008, it's a highly structured procedure. Instead of just passively reading and then writing, you are systematically applying codes to the findings of qualitative studies long before you ever try to organize them into broader themes. It totally takes the guesswork out of interpreting what multiple studies collectively mean for your specific research question.
But to pull this off, you're going to need a coding framework. Drawing on the widely used Bandera framework from 2015, there are 3 main approaches. You've got deductive coding, where you bring a pre-existing theory directly to the data. Then there's inductive coding, where you let codes emerge organically without any predetermined structure. And finally, the combined approach. What you really want to take away here is that for most thesis reviews, a combined approach is hands down the most practical and defensible. You start with a small set of deductive codes from your research question, but you absolutely leave room for inductive codes to emerge as you read. It's the best of both worlds.
Moving right along to Section 3, the 3 stages of synthesis. Let's see how this builds into the actual mechanical workflow.
According to Thomas and Harden, you have to progress through 3 specific stages, and you really can't skip ahead here. Step 1 is highly granular, literal line-by-line coding of the findings and conclusions of your included studies. Step 2 requires you to step back a bit and develop descriptive themes by grouping those related codes together. And finally, Step 3 pushes you to generate analytical themes. This is the magic moment, where you go beyond just describing what the studies say and actually interpret what that evidence means for your research question. You're evolving from raw data extraction to deep analytical interpretation.
Now, while you're in that middle stage, developing your descriptive themes, keep this golden rule of thumb in mind. Aim for 3 to 6 distinct themes that capture meaningful patterns. Why? Well, having fewer than 3 themes usually means you've over-aggregated. You squish too many nuanced, distinct ideas together into one blob. On the flip side, if you have more than 6, you probably haven't grouped things sufficiently, and your review is going to feel fragmented and chaotic to the reader.
All right, Part 4, building a synthesis matrix. You might be wondering, how do we visualize all this extracted data across dozens of studies without completely losing our minds?
Enter the synthesis matrix,
Honestly, this is arguably the most powerful tool in your architectural toolkit. Drawing on foundational literature mapping techniques like those from Arksey and O'Malley, a synthesis matrix is a thematically organized table used to impose order on a messy set of sources. Think of it as your primary drafting board. It lets you visually map out exactly where authors agree, where they fiercely disagree, or where they seamlessly build upon each other's work.
The basic structure is wonderfully simple. According to the SALSA framework, which we'll touch on more in just a second, you can set up your matrix by using columns for your core themes or topics and your rows for the individual documents or authors you're reviewing.
And it doesn't have to be fancy. A real early-stage matrix can literally just be handwritten on a notepad. Sometimes researchers even flip the orientation, putting authors across the top and emerging themes down the side. Actually, that's perfectly fine. The tool is totally flexible to how your brain works. The huge takeaway here is that you can, and absolutely should, leave some blank space for surprises. When an author brings up an unexpected idea you hadn't anticipated, you just add a new theme right into the matrix.
Once you refine it digitally, say on a topic like graduate student anxiety, the magic really happens. You might have 3 major themes across the top, like multiple roles, relationships, and classroom environment, mapping against your authors down the side. By dropping specific keywords and notes into those intersecting cells, it instantly highlights where the bulk of the scholarly conversation exists. But more importantly, pay attention to the blank spaces. Those silences literally represent your potential research gaps. It is a visual map of what hasn't been adequately studied yet.
Finally, Section 5, Quality and Contradictory Evidence. As we construct our final argument, we've got to make sure our building materials are structurally sound, right? Because not all research is created equal.
And this brings us back to the SALSA framework, based on Grant and Booth from 2009. SALSA stands for Search, Appraisal, Synthesis, and Analysis. I want you to focus heavily on that second A, appraisal. The quality appraisal phase is absolutely critical. You simply cannot detach quality appraisal from your final synthesis. The confidence you express in your conclusions has to directly reflect the quality of the underlying evidence you gathered.
Because if you forget that step, you're going to fall into some very dangerous traps. We've talked about the danger of simply summarizing, but detaching quality appraisal from synthesis, that is incredibly risky. Imagine expressing high confidence in a shiny new conclusion only to realize that conclusion is supported by weak, methodologically flawed studies. Yeah, not great. Always keep your appraisal scores right next to your thematic codes.
And speaking of bias, you absolutely must not cherry-pick your data just to force a clean, easy narrative. If Smith and Jones completely disagree on a theme, your job as the architect is not to hide Jones in the closet so things look nice and tidy. Your job is to design a space that explores and explains that very contradiction. Why do they differ? Was it the population they studied? The methodology? Engaging head-on with contradictory evidence makes your synthesis infinitely stronger and far more credible.
So, as we wrap up this explainer, I want you to look at your current literature review draft, or the one you're just about to start, and ask yourself this one final question. Are you just stacking books on a shelf, or are you building a completely new perspective? Because the answer to that question is going to determine whether you are merely reporting on the past or actively shaping the future of your entire field. Now go start building.